Let me ask you something straight from the heart. Have you ever felt like no matter how much love, effort, or energy you pour into a relationship, somehow you still end up being undervalued? Have you ever found yourself bending over backward to keep someone happy only to realize that the more you give, the less they respect you? If that's ever been you, I want you to pause for a moment and really listen, because what I'm about to share with you isn't just about relationships, it's about reclaiming your worth, your dignity, and your inner peace. Think about Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor. He wasn't chasing approval, he wasn't desperate for affection, and he certainly wasn't begging anyone to value him. Instead, he stood firm in who he was. He lived by principles, not by impulses. And do you know what's fascinating? That kind of grounded strength is exactly what attracts high-value women. Women who don't just want a man to entertain them, but a man who embodies wisdom, discipline, and self-respect. Now here's the reality. In today's world, so many men get this backwards. They think if they buy more gifts, text back instantly, or sacrifice their own needs, somehow that will make her stay. But what really happens? They lose themselves. And the truth is, no woman, especially a high-value one, is attracted to a man who doesn't respect his own boundaries. So what's the secret? Boundaries. Boundaries are not walls that keep people out there. The lines that define who you are and what you stand for. They are the invisible framework that commands respect without you ever having to demand it. And when you set powerful, unshakable boundaries, something incredible happens. You naturally attract women who are emotionally mature, grounded, and genuinely interested in you, not for what you can give them, but for who you are. Imagine a life where you don't chase validation, where you don't tolerate disrespect, where you no longer fear being alone because you've mastered the art of standing strong in your own presence. That's what Marcus Aurelius meant when he said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. And that's what this video is about. The 7 powerful boundaries that will instantly attract high-value women into your life. Boundaries that are not about arrogance or playing games, but about aligning yourself with a Stoic truth. Respect begins within. But before we dive in, let me quickly say this. If you find value in Stoic wisdom and how it applies to modern life, relationships, and self-mastery, then make sure to subscribe to my channel, Stoic Daily, and hit that like button. And most importantly, watch this video till the very end, because what you're about to learn could genuinely transform your love life and help you build the kind of connection you've always wanted. Now let's get started with the first powerful boundary. Boundary 1, the boundary of self-respect. Let me tell you something personal, something you might have lived through yourself. Have you ever been in love so deeply that you started ignoring the little red flags? Maybe you told yourself, "It's okay, she just had a bad day," or "If I just give a little more, she'll finally see how much I care." And yet the more you gave, the less it seemed to matter. Does that sound familiar? We've all been there. You remember those late nights waiting for a text that never came, the moments when you said yes even though your heart screamed no, the times when you lowered your standards just to keep the person you loved close. That's not love, that's losing yourself. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." And being a good man begins with self-respect. Because here's the hard truth. If you don't respect yourself, no one else will. Think of it this way. Self-respect is like the foundation of a house. Without it, everything crumbles. With it, you build something so strong that no storm, no argument, no rejection, no heartbreak can tear it down. Ask yourself this. Have you ever accepted disrespect just because you were afraid of being alone? Have you ever stayed quiet when you should have spoken up just to keep her happy? If you're nodding right now, that's where your self-respect was compromised. And that's exactly where you need to set your boundary. A high-value woman is not impressed by a man who sacrifices his dignity for love. She's drawn to a man who says, "This is who I am. This is what I stand for. And I won't compromise that for anyone." When you live by that standard, you don't even have to demand respect. It comes naturally. And here's the beautiful part. When you finally start respecting yourself, the wrong women will leave. But the right one, the one who values strength, integrity, and loyalty, she'll be drawn to you like a magnet. Because deep down, love isn't about constant sacrifice. It's about two people respecting each other. And it starts with you respecting yourself. So let me ask you, what's one memory in your love life where you realize now I should have stood up for myself. Hold on to that thought, because that's the exact moment where your journey toward real self-respect begins. Boundary 2, the boundary of emotional control. Let me ask you something honest. Have you ever lost your cool in love? Maybe she didn't reply to your text for hours, and you felt that burning frustration rising in your chest. Or maybe she said something sharp during an argument, and before you could stop yourself, you exploded. Words flew out that you later regretted, and then afterward you sat there thinking, why did I react like that? Why couldn't I stay calm? If that memory feels familiar, you're not alone. Almost every man has lived through that. I remember a friend who once told me about how he ruined what could have been a great relationship, not because he didn't care, but because every small fight became a battlefield. Instead of being the steady presence she could lean on, he became a storm she couldn't handle. Marcus Aurelius taught, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. That's exactly what emotional control is, the ability to remain steady when everything around you feels unstable. Think about it. How many times in love have you felt your emotions hijack your better judgment? The late night arguments, the jealousy, the overthinking, those are the exact moments that test whether you're a man who reacts or a man who responds. High-value women are not looking for perfection, but they are naturally drawn to men who can master their emotions. Why? Because it shows strength. It shows maturity. It shows that when life gets tough, and it always does, you won't crumble. You won't lash out. You won't break under pressure. Now ask yourself, what's that one moment in your love life where you wish you had stayed calm? Instead of overreacting, maybe she said she needed space, and instead of giving it, you suffocated her with calls and messages. Maybe she pulled back, and instead of holding your ground, you panicked and begged. That's exactly where emotional control was missing. But here's the good news. Every time you practice emotional control, you silently communicate something powerful. I am grounded. I am unshakable. My emotions do not own me, I own them. And when you show up like that, you instantly separate yourself from the crowd of men who let their feelings rule them. So next time you feel that surge of emotion, remember this: the man who can master himself masters love. Boundary 3, the boundary of time. Let me ask you something that might sting a little. Have you ever spent so much time on someone that you forgot about yourself? Maybe you skipped your gym routine because she wanted to talk for hours on the phone. Maybe you canceled plans with your friends just to be available for her. Or maybe you poured so many hours into chasing her attention that, in the end, you realized you were the only one investing that much time. Think back for a moment. Do you remember that one relationship where your entire world started revolving around her? Every free minute, every weekend, every late night conversation, you gave it all. And at first it felt romantic, didn't it? But slowly you began to notice. The more of your time you gave away, the less she seemed to value it. That's because time is the most precious resource you have. Marcus Aurelius himself wrote, "Do not act as if you had 1,000 years to live. Your time is your life. And if you treat it like it's cheap, others will too." Here's the truth. A high-value woman doesn't want a man who has nothing better to do than wait around for her. She wants a man who values his time, who invests it wisely, who knows that his hours are sacred. And when you protect your time, something powerful happens. She starts valuing every moment she gets with you. Ask yourself, when was the last time you sacrificed your priorities just to be available for someone else? Maybe you skipped studying, skipped work, or ignored your goals because you didn't want to disappoint her. That's the exact point where your boundary of time was broken. The Stoic man says, "I will give you my time, but not at the expense of my growth, my dreams, or my peace." And this isn't arrogance, it's respect. Respect for yourself and ultimately respect for her too. Because when you show that your time is valuable, she feels that being with you is a privilege, not a convenience. So next time you find yourself about to give up your whole day just to please someone, pause and ask, is this how I would spend my time if I truly valued it? If the answer is no, then that's your moment to set the boundary. Because in love, the man who values his time teaches others to value it too. Boundary 4, the boundary of standards in relationships. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever stayed in a relationship where deep down you knew you deserved better? Maybe she ignored your feelings. Maybe she crossed lines that hurt you. Or maybe she gave you just enough attention to keep you hooked, but never the love and respect you truly craved. And yet you stayed. Why? Because you thought, maybe this is the best I can get. Maybe love is supposed to feel this way. Think back. Do you remember the times you lowered your standards just to keep her? Maybe you told yourself, it's fine, she'll change. She just needs time. But as the weeks turned into months, you realized it wasn't her that needed to change. It was you who needed to decide what you were no longer willing to accept. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." And the quality of your love life depends on the standards you set. If you accept crumbs, you'll always live hungry. But when you set clear standards, what you allow, what you expect, what you will not tolerate, you create a relationship where respect, loyalty, and love can actually grow. High-value women are not impressed by men who say yes to everything. They are impressed by men who have the courage to say no when something crosses their values. Why? Because it shows strength, clarity, and self-worth. A man without standards is like a ship without a compass. He goes wherever the waves push him. But a man with standards, he becomes unshakable. Now pause for a moment and ask yourself, what's one memory from your love life where you ignored your own standards? Maybe she flirted with other guys and you pretended it didn't bother you. Maybe she never matched the effort you put in, yet you convinced yourself to settle. That memory, that exact moment, is proof of where your standards should have been set. Here's the truth. Setting standards isn't about being controlling or demanding. It's about saying, I know my worth, and I will only build a love story with someone who values it too. And when you live this way, something amazing happens. The wrong people naturally disappear. And the right woman, the one who respects herself and respects you, will meet you exactly at your level. Because in love, you don't get what you wish for. You get what you're willing to stand for. Boundary 5, the boundary of independence. Let me ask you something deep. Have you ever been in a relationship where you slowly lost yourself, where your entire identity became her moods, her needs, her happiness? Maybe you stopped doing the things you once loved, your hobbies, your passions, your routines, just because you wanted to spend every second with her. And in the beginning it felt romantic, right? But over time, didn't it start to feel suffocating for both of you? Think about it. Do you remember that one love story where you would drop everything just to be available? You skipped the gym, you stopped meeting your friends, you abandoned your goals, all in the name of love. But let me ask you, in that relationship, did you feel stronger? Or did you feel like you were slowly disappearing? Here's the truth. Love without independence is not love. It's attachment. And attachment leads to insecurity, jealousy, and dependence. Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." If your thoughts revolve only around her, you forget that your life, your growth, your purpose matter too. A high-value woman doesn't want a man who clings to her for his sense of worth. She wants a man who has his own life, his own passions, his own fire. Because when you stand independent, when you live fully even outside of the relationship, you show her something rare, strength and balance. Ask yourself, when was the last time you put your dreams on hold for love? Maybe you had a goal, but you pushed it aside because you didn't want to upset her. Maybe you wanted to travel, start a project, or pursue a passion, but you thought, what if she doesn't like it? That's the exact moment where your independence was lost. But here's the beauty. When you reclaim your independence, love becomes healthier. She starts to admire you not just as her partner, but as a man who knows his worth beyond the relationship. And instead of pulling her closer with desperation, your independence naturally attracts her respect and her desire. Because the truth is, love should never cost you yourself. The strongest relationships are two whole people choosing each other, not two broken halves clinging to survive. So remember this. The moment you start living fully for yourself, that's the moment love begins to flourish. Boundary 6, the boundary of communication. Let me ask you this. Have you ever been in a relationship where silence hurt more than words? Where you wanted to say what you felt, but you held back because you were afraid of pushing her away? Or maybe you were on the other side, constantly guessing what she was thinking, reading between the lines, hoping to understand her heart without her ever saying a word. Do you remember how heavy that felt? Think back to one of your love stories. Do you remember those moments where something bothered you, but instead of speaking up, you kept quiet? At first, you told yourself, it's not a big deal. But slowly, that unspoken pain started to grow. One day it was a misunderstanding. The next day it was resentment, and before you knew it, the love story felt more like a silent war. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Stoicism teaches us the power of honesty and clarity. And in relationships, the strongest boundary you can set is the boundary of communication. I will speak my truth, and I will expect honesty in return. A high-value woman doesn't want to play guessing games. She doesn't want a man who bottles up his emotions until he explodes. She wants a man who can look her in the eyes and calmly say what he feels without fear, without manipulation, without ego. Because clear communication builds trust, and trust is the foundation of love. Ask yourself, how many times in your past did silence cost you love? How many times did you let misunderstandings pile up until they built a wall between you and her? Maybe she said something that hurt you, but you shrugged it off instead of addressing it. Maybe you wanted more effort, more love, more presence from her, but you stayed quiet hoping she'd magically figure it out. That's exactly where communication broke down. The Stoic boundary here is simple. I will not play games with my words, and I will not stay in a love story where truth is hidden. When you practice this, something powerful happens. Respect grows, intimacy deepens, and love becomes lighter, freer, more real. Because in the end, the most beautiful love stories are not the ones built on silence and assumptions, but on words that are honest, clear, and kind. Boundary 7, the boundary of purpose. Let me ask you something straight from the heart. Have you ever been in love so deeply that you started to forget about your own dreams? Maybe you had goals, career plans, passions, hobbies, but slowly, you pushed them aside because she became your whole world. And at first it felt romantic. You thought, she is my purpose. But with time, didn't you start to feel empty? Like you'd lost yourself in the process? Think back to one of your love stories. Do you remember a moment where you gave up something important? An opportunity, a dream, a chance just to keep her happy? At first you told yourself it was worth it. But later, maybe late at night when you were alone, you felt a quiet ache. That voice inside whispering, "This isn't who I am. I was meant for more." Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions." And this is where the 7th boundary comes in. The boundary of purpose. A Stoic man never lets love distract him from his mission. Because here's the truth, when you live with purpose, you don't just build a better life for yourself. You become the kind of man who inspires the woman beside you. A high-value woman doesn't want a man who makes her his only reason for living. She wants a man who already has a fire burning inside him, a vision, a path, a goal. Why? Because love is not meant to replace your purpose. It's meant to walk beside it. Ask yourself, when was the last time you let love pull you off track? Maybe you stopped focusing on your studies, your career, or your passions because you thought giving her all of you was enough. But deep down, didn't you feel a little lost? That memory, that exact moment, is proof of why purpose is everything. Here's the beauty. When you protect your purpose, love becomes stronger. She sees your discipline, your drive, your determination, and she admires it. She respects it. She's drawn to it. Because a man with purpose is magnetic. He doesn't chase love. He attracts it naturally. So remember this. The greatest love story you'll ever live is the one where you don't lose yourself, where your purpose remains intact. Because the man who follows his purpose doesn't just find love, he builds a life where love can truly thrive. Conclusion. When you really think about it, these 7 boundaries are not just about attracting women, they are about shaping yourself into the kind of man who is naturally respected and admired. Self-respect, emotional control, protecting your time, setting relationship standards, maintaining independence, communicating clearly, and living with purpose. These are the traits that Marcus Aurelius himself embodied. And when you live by them, you stop chasing and start attracting. You stop begging for love and instead draw in the kind of connection that is rooted in mutual respect. Remember, boundaries are not about keeping people away. They are about protecting the best parts of yourself so that only the right people can come close. Now that you've heard these 7 powerful boundaries, I want you to take a moment and reflect. Which boundary do you need to strengthen most in your own life? Is it self-respect? Is it emotional control? Or maybe it's living with greater purpose? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your journey. If this video resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button to let me know this message reached you. Subscribe to Stoic Daily for more wisdom, grounded in Stoicism, that you can apply directly to your love life, your mindset, and your personal growth. And most importantly, don't just watch this video once. Revisit it whenever you feel yourself slipping back into old habits. Because here's the truth. Change doesn't happen overnight. But every small step you take towards strengthening your boundaries transforms you into the kind of man who no longer seeks validation, he commands it. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.